Hannah Kessler.
This gal started her own bank at the age of 18, and then you became a self-made millionaire by the age of 24?
I did.
Hannah Kessler is a money mentor.
She's known as the single millionaire chick.
With advice on how to stop living paycheck to paycheck.
Money. It starts with your mindset.
How you think about your money is going to greatly impact how much money that you have.
I grew up in a town called Olathe, Kansas. I'd be walking out of the door, going to school, and my mama would holler at me, "Hannah, make good choices." And I'd have to holler back, "Because the choices I make today will affect my future."
My parents, they did a very good job about teaching me as a child how to handle my money.
We have a lack of understanding when it comes to money.
If you want your kids to have money, you need to start talking to them about it while they're young.
I'm really second generation to this concept that's called the infinite banking concept.
And at 18 years old, my dad gave me the choice to start my own bank that then led me to becoming a millionaire by the time I was 24.
Now you've written a book to help tie it all together.
So the companion is really just teaching kids that, not specifically money, but really important life lessons.
Now being the owner of the Money Multiplier, I help serve over 17,000 clients in every state of the country.
Where can people get the book?
HannahKessler.com. Hannah spelled the same way forwards and backwards, Kessler with one S.
Also, I got my podcast show, the Money Multiplier Podcast.
And make good choices today, because the choices you make today will affect your future. The choices you will make today will affect your future. Good morning, y'all. Happy Thursday. We're sitting here on January 15th. Today's going to be a little shorter of an episode. I need to get my butt out the door. We're heading to Detroit today. Tomorrow morning, yo girl's gonna be on the Detroit TV station live within the D. So if you're in the Detroit area, tune in around the 11 a.m. hour. You'll see your girl posted up there. And I do have some comments coming in. Good morning, Mr. Dexter. Good to see you, you early bird over there in California. And I've noticed too, y'all, this is something I just started to pick up on. The comments from my personal Facebook page don't come through to StreamYard. So I do have the Facebook hooked up as well. So I'm going to be kind of checking over here on this other tab if y'all are commenting over there. So if I miss your comments like on the past few episodes, that's why. Okay, I promise I'm not ignoring y'all. But I'll always go back there and I'll check the comments. I'll read them and I'll get back to y'all with my thoughts and feedback. So as I mentioned, good morning. We are headed out. My segment that I'm going to do, she reached out to me, the producer, because we're here at the start of the new year. And she wanted a segment on, okay, we're here at the start of the new year. How can families get on the same page when we're talking about money? And more specifically, getting into how can I teach my kids about money so that I am setting them up for success? Y'all have heard me go on and on and on about my entitled generation, so I get it. So if we can just get there at a good age to start implementing these new habits, I'm telling you, it's just beneficial. It's going to be transformational in your children's life because hopefully I can be a walking example for y'all, right? I mean, with dad setting me up, started talking about money when I was about 8 years old and started my own bank when I was 18 and then getting into real estate investing at 20. And now, became a millionaire by the time I was 24. So it's been a lot of fun. Today, I want to get into the velocity of your money. And I want to start introducing a new concept to y'all. If y'all are infinite banking vets over here, we talk about the infinite banking concept here on this Thursday morning show, and then also on the Money Multiplier podcast every week. But this is a tool that a lot of people will use in alignment with their infinite banking systems. And it can be a very, very powerful tool if you use it properly. It's the same thing with infinite banking in the topic that we talked about last week, use it or lose it. This is going to be the same steps and the same method. You need to use this system and you need to be disciplined with this system as well. This is going to be a topic that myself and Chris Noggle are going to be covering at the upcoming Tampa Mastermind event. MoneyGameLive.com. Let me put a little banner here at the bottom of the screen. If you've been waiting, go and secure your ticket because, hey, I have a big update for y'all. We just locked it in. If y'all know of the gentleman, Mr. Les Brown is going to be joining us in Tampa coming up at the end of February. So February 27, 28, and March 1st. You don't want to miss it. All right. It's kind of full circle. It's a lot of fun because I remember when Chris, Dad, and this was in the early years. I want to say I was maybe like 18, 19 years old. And Chris was following Dad and I around the country with us. And we actually spoke on one of Les Brown's stage back in the day. So a few years ago. And now I'm inviting him out and he's going to come and speak on my stage. It's fun. I'm so excited. But anyways, I want to see y'all there. Okay. So Tampa Money Game Live is coming up. Last week, somebody asked me the question too. Hey, what's different about this event compared to the Money Multiplier event? The big difference. We just had our 2-day, I say, intensive training on the infinite banking concept. If y'all came and joined us in Denver, we got 2 days in depth into just everything, the infinite banking concept, protecting the vault. We got into trust and estate planning. But this event is more for how can I go and take my infinite banking system and the cash value that's inside of there, or dollars that I have in a self-directed account, maybe a Roth or whatever, wherever you're storing that money at. And it's just sitting stagnant there. I need to go put my little green men to work. This is what this event is about. I have the residential assisted living space, multifamily, private lending, turnkey rentals. And no, it's not just all real estate. We have oil and gas investing, which is pretty cool, especially if you have large tax bills of how to get some depreciation for the taxes. I just posted out a reel not too long ago on my Instagram page where now, because I educated myself, don't leave your education up to your tax people because they probably don't even know, or honestly, they just don't care enough, right? Because they have all these clients that they're trying to get through. It's my biggest beef. That's why we operate a little bit differently over here at the Money Multiplier. I'll tell you that for sure. That's why I always say, welcome to the family. Love me or hate me, but we're going to be lifelong friends, and I'm going to continue to check in with you. But now, because I educated myself on the tax strategies and different things that I could be doing, I literally saved myself over $100,000 on my taxes for 2025. So that was huge. I mean, not too long ago, I said on an episode, hey, because my tax professional was supposed to switch me to being taxed as an S Corp, they never did it. And so I asked my new guy, I think I kissed so many frogs to finally find this gentleman. I'm so happy with him. Very responsive. Oh my goodness. That was my biggest beef too. Because my old tax person didn't switch me to be filed as under an S Corp, I asked my new guy, if she would have done that, how much money would it have saved me on my 2024 taxes? And he goes, well, probably close to $50,000 it would have saved you, Hannah. I know so much I could have done with that 50 grand instead of sending it to the IRS and the government. But that's a whole big topic. I know especially it's relevant in today's media with a lot of the stuff we've been seeing in the media about where our tax dollars are going. I'm not going to go there today. Let's getting into a little bit of the political environment, which I want to not get into today. But I'm just grateful. I'm finally finding my good people. And honestly, what has led me to finding these good people is me simply educating myself. So that is my big PSA, y'all. Educate for yourself. Don't just take people's specific words for it like I was in the past. And now, because I am educated, I know what's going on. Famous quote from R. Nelson Nash, if you know what's going on, you'll know what to do. So it's just been very positive over here, especially when it comes to the tax code. All right, let's see who else is chiming in. Good morning, Mr. Shane. Good to see you this morning. Oh, Shane says, hey, Denver event was amazing. Lots of clarity for me had come from that specific event. Good. Thank you. Thanks for the feedback. All right. Let's talk about what the definition of velocity is. If you have gone down rabbit holes on YouTube, especially about the infinite banking concept, you may have stumbled upon another concept called velocity banking. And when you break down just what is the definition of velocity, it really just refers to how quickly money moves through a system. So in our personal finance, if you will, high velocity means that my money's moving fast. It's getting reused over and over, and it's working multiple times for me. Where compared to low velocity, the money is moving slowly, it sits idle somewhere, or I'm getting it trapped within debt. And so velocity is just how fast your money goes back to work for you. My mama would always say, your dollars are your little green men. And the objective is go put your little green men to work for you, create an army of green men that are out there working. So then you can take your time freedom, location freedom back for yourself. And if you really get into the infinite banking concept and think about, okay, becoming my own bank, conventional and commercial banks, they truly obsess over this velocity. They want the deposits coming in. They always have loans going out the door. They want that interest to be paid, and that money is just constantly cycling over and over for them. And that's why you need to get into the mindset of think like a bank, because I know the biggest paradigm shift when we're talking about the infinite banking concept is, okay, well, if I go and take this policy loan, that's a loan, that's a debt, that's an expense, that's a payment that I have to pay it back. Obviously, you should be an honest banker. If you're going to take your money from your own bank, you should pay it back with interest, because if you take a loan from a traditional bank, you're expected to pay them back on time every month with that interest, and you never skip a beat in doing it. So just practice those same principles and habits with yourself. So whoever is controlling that velocity of the money, they're the ones who control the wealth. It's simply just that money pool, and they're the ones who are in control of that money pool because they're the ones who are really in control of that velocity of the money. So in my opinion, I think this velocity matters more than just getting myself higher rates of return, because the faster that this money can move for me or you, the less time it has to work against me, aka inflation, right? So I want to introduce this whole concept of velocity banking. And what this means is we can actually go in and take out a first lien HELOC, home equity line of credit, and I can go in here and actually pay off my house in a fraction of the time, 7 to 10 years, compared to the traditional 30-year mortgages. So I've been learning as I've gotten deeper and deeper into velocity banking. This is actually how Australia positions all of their loans on houses. I had no idea, but Australia is literally doing this, and a lot of the Australians pay off their house this way. And maybe because we're greedy Americans, who knows? But we don't do that as the traditional finance over here in America. But there are some opportunities that you can actually go and do the same thing that the Australians are doing to pay off your house in 10 years compared to 30 years. And essentially by doing that, now you're not having to pay all of those buku bucks just in the interest alone. However, this is not for everybody, because you have to have a high enough spread, if you will, for lack of better words, between income that's coming in and the expenses that are going out the door. If that spread is not high enough, then this doesn't make sense for you, because then you're just going to be spending more in interest costs alone. And the gentleman that I work with, his name is Anthony Rushing. So if y'all were there at Money Game Live 2025 last year, y'all met Anthony. Anthony was introducing the velocity banking concept to people. Velocity banking concept, that's new. But he was up on stage sharing it. And he's my go-to guy for this. He actually works at the bank, and he's the one that issues out. Well, he's more so like the marketing head of it, but his team is the one that does the underwriting, gets these first lien HELOCs issued out to people. So I can always make that connection. If this is something that you do want to explore more, I can even turn you on to Anthony's presentation. It's about a 20-minute video on this. But I wanted to get into a live example, if you will, of when this makes sense and when it does not make sense. And then how can I integrate velocity banking with the infinite banking concept? Okay. And don't get so hung up on the words. Okay. Velocity banking, this is the first lien HELOC, home equity line of credit. Infinite banking is my whole life policies designed for high immediate cash value. So those are what the product is, the vehicles it is. But how can I really marry these two concepts together? Because you can. I mean, you could just stick with doing one, or you could really push it together. And I've noticed this works a lot with my people who do have a good cash flow coming in. I'm thinking about this one girl up in Indiana. I met her last year at the Dealmaker Gary, Indiana event. And it's working well for her because she has these debts. She's got cash flow coming in, but it's just how can I pay off this debt faster and then also kill two birds with one stone, paying off my house even faster too. So I'm going to pop up here my little calculator. If y'all know Mr. Joseph Kovac, I always say Kovacevic because that reminds me how to spell it, but it's Joseph Kovacek. He has coined himself as the Mr. HELOC on the team over here at the Money Multiplier because this is what he does within his own personal life. I'm considering going in here and actually doing this myself. So have I personally done this? No, but my numbers make sense. I'm thinking I want to go and do this. I just got some other things I need to fizzle out first. And then probably at some point this year, I'm going to go in here and qualify for this home equity line of credit. But you do have to qualify for this loan. You got to have a good credit score. You got to go through the underwriting with the bank to have them issue this loan. So you do have to qualify for it. Again, don't let that don't let that stop you from having a conversation about it. Even when it comes to the infinite banking concept. Hold on, just ADD moment. I talked with a gentleman on Tuesday evening. And he reached out to me actually on Facebook. That's how he found me through these morning live streams. I don't know if he's on here this morning, but good morning. You know who I'm talking about. But he reached out to me. He says, Hannah, just right now, I'm just not in a position to start my infinite banking system. Should we even have this phone call together? And I'm like, yeah, dude, let's just have a phone call together. It doesn't even have to be that long. It could be 10, 15 minutes if you want, but let's just get you on the right page. Let me give you my feedback of what you should be doing right now. And then from there, when you are ready to start, give yourself about a month because it's going to take about 4 weeks to get the underwriting going for the policy side, right? So if you think that you are not in a position to start, my feedback is just have the conversation with that professional, that person, because you'll start to realize, oh, okay, I think I could actually do this. Okay, so just bounce off those ideas from somebody else. Now I'm going to pull this up and I'm going to go enter into full screen here. All right. Here is the calculator that tells me if this is actually a good idea for somebody to do. Let's just take a made-up example. Let's say that I have a house that I own and it is worth $500,000. That's what it's appraised for, $500,000. And let's say that I have $200,000 of equity that's sitting inside of that house. So really my leftover balance that I still have to pay is $300,000. Now, something to note, on a first lien HELOC, you're going to have to go through the closing costs and the other expenses because this is going to be a new loan. It's literally going to replace the mortgage that you already have. A lot of the times people are more familiar with second lien HELOC, so they have the HELOC plus their mortgage that they're paying every month. But this first lien HELOC is replacing that mortgage, and now we only have this first lien HELOC that's open. So there are going to be closing costs. Now, let's say that in order for me to pay off this house, I still need to pay $300,000 to pay off this $500,000 house. So the principal of the loan that I'm wanting, if I also go in here, let's just factor in the closing costs, et cetera, et cetera. Let's say that I want $310,000. That's what I'm going to need as that principal loan amount from this first lien HELOC. Now, the interest rate, we set it at 8.5%. It's really not 8.5%, but again, just in learning purposes, even like in my presentation on the money multiplier, you'll notice that I always like to under promise, over deliver in real life. So that's why, like in the calculator example, I always use the loan interest rate of 6% from the policies, when in real life it's actually 5%. So the same thing's happening here. We're just going a little bit over and beyond of what that interest rate is. So I'm saying it's 8.5%. Now, take home pay. What is my take home pay that I'm bringing in each month? Let's just say that it's easy and round number. Let's say it's $10,000 a month. $10,000 is my take home pay. Now, my monthly expenses. This gets into where I'm really hounding on and what I'm going to talk about in Detroit tomorrow. You need to track your expenses. You need to know what's going out the door each and every month. So in this average monthly expenses, let's say my expenses are $8,000 a month. Okay, $8,000 is my monthly expenses. But do you see my little note here that all household bills and expenses minus, minus your full mortgage payment? Easy round numbers. Let's say my mortgage payment is $2,000 each month. So if my expenses are $8,000 and it includes my $2,000 mortgage payment, I'm going to have to subtract that mortgage payment now because I'm no longer having that mortgage I have to pay. So 8 minus 2, $6,000 is what my expenses are each month. So income after expenses, $4,000. Now, homeowners insurance and property taxes, they're not going to be included in this. So we want to make sure that we also include homeowners insurance and the property taxes. I'm just going to use a made up number. Let's just say it's $3,000 for both of them. Okay. Obviously, you'll have your numbers more sophisticated, if you will. It's not going to be all round like this, but just doing it for learning purposes. So homeowners insurance, $3,000. Annual property taxes, $3,000. Now, when I run this through the calculator, it's telling me that if I do this method, it's going to take me 11 and a half years, let's call it, to pay off my house this way. Here's what's happening. When you start to do this velocity banking method or this first lien HELOC, what you're doing is all of your income is going into that first lien HELOC. All of the money funnels through that first lien HELOC. Through the HELOC is how I pay my expenses, which can include my policy premium. Here's the rule and the guideline here. Because we're chunking away, all of my income is going inside of that mortgage, all of that income is going into that first lien HELOC. that velocity of the money continues to pay down that loan balance each and every month at a fast, rapid pace. That's why they call this the velocity banking concept. As Mr. Shane is saying in the comments, Hannah just coined the term velocity banking concept. I'm going to take it. So all of my income is going into that first lien HELOC, and then through the HELOC, I pay my expenses and I can pay my annual premium on my policy. I can use that money to tackle on debts if I want. It just allows me to have this open line of credit now that I can use to go do other things with. And I'm going to actually pull up, as I was looking at, I have some notes, like, look, so Money Mornings with Hannah, I have like all of these notes of like different topics I could get into each and every week. And on here, I remember writing down a quote from Robert Kiyosaki. Let me find it. He says, I use debt because debt is tax-free money. There's good debt and there's bad debt, y'all. So I'm just leveraging this good debt that I have that I can go pay those bad debts, the credit cards, car loans, boat loans, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So that's all we're doing. We're just leveraging this good debt, tapping into some of this capital, this equity that's sitting inside of my house because, hey, what good does the money sitting inside your house do besides just sitting in the floorboards? I can now tap into some of this money and I can go and take it to free up some cash flow that's going out to these debt people each month. So here's the overall snapshot. A lot of people like to get into the rate. So let me back it up. Let me say this comment first. This only makes sense if this payoff time is 13 years or below. That's when it makes sense. Because if it's more than that, let's just say that I make 10 and I'm spending 9 years to pay off 30. This doesn't make sense. Why does it not make sense? Because look at the total interest that you're now paying on that loan. So it doesn't make sense for that individual. Remember what I said? It has to be a far enough spread between income and expenses for this to work. This is why, because if I do it this way, yeah, I could pay off the house in 30 years. I mean, what's the difference between this and a traditional 30-year mortgage? But more so importantly, it's the total interest that I'm paying to the bank. So if I go back and I switch this back to $6,000, now see how much interest I'm paying back to the bank. 175 compared to 2 million and some change, right? So it makes sense in this scenario. So that's why this number has to be 13 years or below for it to make sense. Now, here's the big kicker and what a lot of people like to look at. Because just like Nelson Nash says, people love to get hung up on rate. And what's this rate that I'm getting inside the policy, inside of this mortgage, inside of this first lien HELOC, right? So if you take it into the traditional sense of comparing this to a first lien, taking this and comparing it to a traditional mortgage, first lien HELOC compared to the 30-year mortgage, this means that within a 30-year mortgage, it is literally a 3.2% interest if I do it this way, equivalent to a traditional 30-year mortgage. Are you guys following me? Does that make sense? It makes sense in my brain, but hopefully y'all are getting what I'm saying. First lien HELOC is equivalent to a 30-year fixed rate mortgage at this rate, 3.2%. So instead of y'all having your 6% mortgage rates, hey, this, if you take it apples to apples, this is equivalent to a 3.2% 30-year fixed mortgage rate. So this one makes sense. But like I said, you got to make sure that the expenses are less than income, and it's got to be a high enough spread to do it. Let's even like back it down just for giggles here. Let's say I back it down to $3,000. I'm only spending $3,000 a month. Look at this thing. It would take me 4
let's call it just 5 years to now pay off this house. And now I'm only paying $68,000 in interest compared to a traditional 30-year mortgage. So you see what I'm saying? But again, you have to be disciplined with this, because if this money goes down, the income that's going in, that can change all of these numbers here. Let's say it does go down to 7,000, and then now my expenses are at 6,000. It doesn't make sense. Now I'm at 2.9 million just in interest alone. So you guys kind of follow me? Does that make sense here of what I'm saying? So this velocity banking method, you could do this if you're disciplined with the money there, but you still have to be disciplined with the dollars. You see what I'm saying? Here, hold on. We got some comments coming in. Dexter saying, is that because you paid off sooner? That's right. You're paying it off sooner. Because every month you're paying down the principal more and more each month. That's why this is getting paid off sooner compared to the traditional 30-year mortgage. The rate is equivalent, ? So here, let me post it back up on the screen. The rate, well, and this is our crappy little example, right? Where I messed up the numbers. Let's take it back. 10,000. And let's say it's 5,000. Again, just another number example. So this Dexter right here, this is equivalent interest rate to a 30-year fixed mortgage. This would essentially say, hey, instead of your 30-year mortgage being at a 6%, if you do it this way, that mortgage is actually at a 2.2%. So just kind of comparing those apples to apples of, I know a lot of people know what the rate is that they're paying on their house, but again, that's where we get into the difference between rate and volume of interest that we're paying. But this is just comparing the 6% traditional mortgage. This will be equivalent to a 2.2% 30-year mortgage if I do it this way. Okay. So how does this marry with the infinite banking concept? What people will do is they will take that money from their HELOC, and they can take that money and now put it into policy premium. So they're using the first lien HELOC, funding that money into a policy. And then now, because I funded it into the policy, now I have all of that cash value made available to me that I can then take out the cash value from the policy. I can use that plus the capital from the HELOC if I want. And now I can go and pay off these debts. And now I'm starting to free up more cash flow for myself. I don't want to get so deep in showing y'all all these numbers. I can do a part 2 to this episode of if I put it into like a money multiplier map and showing y'all a policy illustration of how this works. We can get into that. Just let me know. Send me a DM or send me an email. But I just wanted to start exposing y'all to the different tools that are out there that you could be using that you just may not know about. Because again, going back to my tangent of taxes, we have to go out and go do the research for ourselves. Go to different YouTube channels. Some of y'all know of us over here at the Money Multiplier from Vantastic, Christy Van. She is a big HELOC person. She has a lot of videos on YouTube as well. So that's a good resource to go look at. Go look at Chris Naugle's YouTube videos as well. Naugle, Naugle. He's got some velocity banking on there as well. And again, if you want to get into this live, Chris and I are going to be doing this at the upcoming Money Game Live event. But it's just another option. So if you want to play around with these calculators, reach out to me. I'm going to put my email up here on the screen. Hannah@themoneymultiplier.com. We can kind of get into your specifics. But I'm going to be blunt with you. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I'm not going to try and give you this thing because you just want it to work. It's got to make sense. The numbers have to make sense. And again, you have to be disciplined with this stuff. But it's been great. I mean, I hear a lot of those stories and testimonials out there of just people who are able to pay off their house in a fraction of the time simply by utilizing this velocity banking concept, velocity banking method here. And it's essentially just using that good debt. Let's read it one more time for Mr. Robert Kiyosaki. I use debt because debt is tax-free money. That's all we're trying to do over here. Now, I do got to head out, y'all. I got to get on the road. Let me see some of these comments that are coming in. Knowing a few key rules of the tax game will save you hundreds, sometimes tens of hundreds. Absolutely, my man. Dexter is wanting me to bring back the goods and share. All right, I got you. We'll do a whole episode on that. I just want to start to introduce this concept to y'all, okay? How to leverage this good debt, how to tap into some other capital that you may not even realize that you have. But look over your big financial picture, okay? Go and look at some of my YouTubes of how I track my net worth, how I know how much equity and capital I have being stored places. I just keep it on my spreadsheet, my net worth statement spreadsheet. But it is just powerful, powerful stuff when you really start to get deeper into this. Here, let me check some of these comments coming in from Instagram. Good there. And then lastly, good morning, Tess. Tess is over there on my personal Facebook page. Tess, I just checked the weather. It is literally 11 degrees in Michigan right now. I'm really, Here in Florida, it is currently 56 degrees. So I'm packing my big jacket, packing my gloves. I got all my long johns all packed too. So I'll be coming up there. I will be reaching out to you, Tess, okay? So let's go grab a bite to eat. And hey, y'all, you know, that's what I do when I travel around. And if you know that I'm coming to a city near you, I'd love to take you out to dinner. Take you out to dinner. We could go grab a cup of coffee or, you know, I love my craft beers. I love microbreweries. If y'all know of a place that's local to you and you guys love, please take me there. Love those microbreweries. But other than that, thank you y'all for joining in. I will be back next Thursday for another episode. And depending on how next week goes, you might be joining me live from my conversion van. We got to get on the road here soon because I got to be in Tucson, Arizona in the van by February 2nd or 3rd. So I got to start making my way west. No, I'm not going north, though. I'm going to stay south, let me tell you. Because not last year, it was about 2 or 3 years ago, I was in the van and I was driving I-70 west and a snowstorm came. So I literally had to pull off into a mountain town. Not a lot of stuff going on there, just a mountain town. I was hanging out in a parking lot for about 2 days until the road started to clear. And my pipes for my gray water tanks froze. So I couldn't empty out my gray water, like the sink water and everything. And I was like, okay, drive south, drive south. So that's why in the winter months, I like to say south in the van. But you might be seeing me come through live from the van. I'll give y'all a little tour. Or you could even check out my personal YouTube channel, Hannah Kessler. And I post out vlogs every single month over there too to stay connected with me. Okay, y'all, until next week, do well, be great, reach out to me if you have questions, and I'm here just to support you on your journey as you create more financial freedom and building your own empire for yourself. Until next week, y'all, catch you then. Mwah. Bye, y'all.